Good evening, if that word still fits. This is Daniel Cross. Yes, the same one from the old Toronto paper, coming to you on low power from a school basement north of Calgary. If you hear a faint hum, that's my inverter. If the audio flutters, that's the battery bank sagging. I'm on a dipole strung across the gym rafters and a backup LTE puck taped to a window. If we drop, give me 10 and try again. Timestamp, 2214 Mountain, the 5th of September, year 2050. House rules up front. I timestamp everything. I say what I know, and I label what I don't. I won't read coordinates for medical tents or small units. Don't DM me troop movements. Don't send me your cousin's inside memo unless you want it torn apart on air. And if you hear me repeat something twice, that means I've got 2 sources or better. We're starting late because the lights died again. Grid shed load at 2102. We're running off a pair of marine deep cycle batteries, 105 amp hours each, wired into a 600-watt inverter. The rig is a battered HF transceiver with a tuner I've kicked more than I care to admit. I've got a handheld scanner on police and airband and a laptop with the newsroom muscle memory baked in. You're not alone out there. Breathe. We can work the problem. Immediate trigger first. At 2011, the legislature in Edmonton passed the Sovereign Administration Act. That's the title they gave it. It authorizes the province to assume control and stewardship of federal assets deemed critical to public safety and economic continuity, rails, depots, RCMP detachments, customs warehouses, the usual list. Ottawa responded at 2027, calling it an unconstitutional seizure and ordered federal staff to stand fast. At 2040, the Premier repeated the phrase, "Confederation partners who won't listen don't get to drive the bus." That's not flippant. That's a line he's road-tested. So what does that mean for your night? Here's the verified list so far. North of Airdrie, the rail junction at Irricana has a convoy of about 70 trucks calling themselves pipeline guardians. Their words. They've parked deliberately across 2 spurs to block tanker cars from moving toward the southeast. The operator at the junction told me on a recorded line that a controlled derail was executed this afternoon to move chlorine tankers away from a fire zone near grain silos. That was safety, not sabotage. Repeat, safety, not sabotage. Don't let the wrong clips circulate. Deerfoot Trail, the 2, is passable but sludgy. A pop-up barricade went up near McKnight. It moved to 32 Avenue NE once police rolled in. Stony Trail Ring Road is clear on the northwest arc, unstable on the southeast. YYC Calgary International has 1 runway lit on generator. Priority, medevac only. Foothills Medical Center is on diesel tier 3. That's lights and critical life support, not full HVAC. Peter Lockheed Center is rationing to essential wards. If you need insulin, I'm going to give the storage tips again in 10 minutes. Let me stack the longer fuse under all of this. A decade of carbon border tariffs trapped a lot of Western assets. Wells penciled as profitable when the world was loose on emissions went upside down once Europe started pricing carbon, and the U.S. put a fee at the border. Equalization reform stalled and died. Provincial budgets got smothered by megafires year after year. You lost half a town, then rebuilt, then lost the other half. The federal government started using emergency orders as a habit instead of a last resort, and folks started to feel like Ottawa governed with a rubber stamp that never ran out of ink. On top of that, housing scarcity, a digital ID rollout that tripped over its own shoelaces, and AI layoffs that nuked mid-skill jobs in media, health admin, trucking, you name it. Anger had plenty of kindling. Today, someone finally struck the match. Quick ID for first-time listeners. I'm Daniel. I wrote columns you yelled at over breakfast for 20 years. I'm broadcasting from a school outside Calgary, not naming it, with help from a small list of people I trust. Maya is my producer, remote vetting links. My brother Ethan is a federal tactical officer on standby near a disputed rail junction. My son Lucas, he's 22 and stubborn in the way 22 is, volunteers on a community watch in town, sympathetic to the breakaway line. Chief Lorraine Whitecloud is running a treaty rights checkpoint west of here. Captain Marie de Laurier is an infantry officer in Montreal who has publicly refused urban crowd control orders. Avi Basu runs the Halifax dock. Jay is a radar tech on the Prairie NORAD grid. Paramedic Sophia Tran is in Calgary EMS. These are the voices you'll hear. Finance. You've seen the lines. At 1852, the finance minister triggered a 14-day banking freeze. Deposits locked, transfers throttled, daily cash withdrawal caps hard limited. The trigger wasn't just the secession vote. A doctored treasury memo hit social feeds at lunch, saying deposits above $10,000 would get a haircut at midnight. It was an AI composite. Wrong fonts in the footer. Check some mismatch on the PDF. Timestamps off by 2 hours. But the clip outran the correction. When folks hear haircut and midnight in the same sentence, they empty accounts. Bank of Canada issued a short bulletin at 1915. Capital controls, foreign exchange limits, and an orderly restart next week. That language means we're in cash and carry. So, practical notes. If your insulin is in a fridge and the power dies, you can keep it at room temperature for 28 days if it's not freezing and not cooking. Don't put it next to the oven. Don't bury it in the snow in the garage. You can use a clay pot and pot cooler if you've got unglazed clay and some sand. Evaporative cooling buys you a few degrees if your air is dry enough. Keep needles clean. Don't stretch doses without talking to a clinician. If you're listening near foothills, the west entrance is the ambulance route. Keep that corridor clear. Phone's lighting up. I'm going to take one call before we go to the junction. Maya, line 1. Dan, it's Trevor. I dispatch freight out of Alyth. The rumor about someone torching a chlorine car? Nonsense. We moved those cars to the dead-end spur deliberately once smoke set in. And someone threw fireworks near security, not Molotovs. Tell people to stop sharing the video with the big bass drop audio. That's an edit. He's right. I watched that clip. You can hear the same horn twice with a different echo. Don't be a free distribution channel for garbage. All right. The junction. At 20:55, a box truck rammed an RCMP cruiser at low speed. Officers deployed flashbangs and then rubber, then a handful of live rounds when the truck tried to push through the line. One civilian is confirmed down. I will not read his name until the family posts it. I won't call it a massacre. I also won't say order restored, when all they did was shuffle barricades 30 meters. If you're there, go home. There is no victory in being the closest bystander. Chief Lorraine Whitecloud is on the line from the checkpoint west of Cochrane. Chief, you're live. Evening, Daniel. We set this checkpoint up last spring when the fires started. Ambulances go through. Fire trucks go through. We've got tarps and water for crews. Armed groups, I don't care what flag they're waving, turn around. We've got treaty rights here. We're not a pawn in anyone's game. And to the guy who keeps asking if we'll support the province's act or Ottawa's orders, we support our people. Bring me your elders, your kids, your dialysis schedule. Don't bring me your politics. Thank you, Chief. I want folks listening to hear the third line in the story. It's not federal versus provincial only. There are legal frameworks here older than your grandparents. If you're not fluent in that, maybe hold off on lecturing the people who are. Quebec just moved. National Assembly passed what they call neutral administration, custodianship of federal buildings to prevent clashes while talks are arranged. It is not a declaration of independence. It is also not nothing. It means Ottawa can't stage cleanly through Montreal without consent. It means logistics detour through New Brunswick. It means delay, and delay spooks markets. Markets, such as they are, already flinched. Distributors want cash on delivery. Grocers are closing early and asking for small bills to keep tills balanced. I got 3 messages from pharmacy techs who were told to lock controlled meds and release only with a prescriber's code. If you're furious at the counter, you're yelling at someone who was probably told 5 minutes ago to guard a safe with her body. Don't be that guy. Ports, Halifax first. Avi Basu, line 3. Dan, we carved a humanitarian lane. 2 cranes, reefers with meds, baby formula, dialysis supplies. We marked the containers with big orange X's per the union and the city's plan. Protest organizers agreed to let those trucks through with volunteer escorts. I've got a private security firm at the West Gate trying to push steel boxes to a bonded yard. I told them no. If I see a rifle on that gangway, I shut the cranes. Hold that line, Avi. Vancouver's different. A shipping consortium hired a private outfit to force a gate. Fistfights earlier than the crack of something nastier. Vancouver police say the area is closed. I'm asking everyone who isn't being paid to be there to go home. A port is a maze with bad sightlines. It turns panic into stampede fast. Power grid. At 2120, a control center serving parts of southern Alberta took a ransomware hit. The vector was an update server the contractor swore was clean. Operators islanded Calgary and Toronto to preserve Montreal's aluminum smelters. Aluminum eats electricity like a hungry animal, and if you let a potline freeze, you don't restart it with a prayer. You cut it out with jackhammers and cry. Black starts. That's the art of rebooting a grid from dead. Depend on having little generators to seed the big ones. We've got a combined cycle gas plant southeast of Calgary, Shepherd Energy Center, that can come up quick once it has starter power. Until then, elevators will trap, water pumps will lag, and basements will get ugly. Carry a flashlight. Check on the elderly neighbor. Don't run the car in a closed garage to charge your phone. I'm serious. EMS. Sophia, you still with me? I am. 2 hospital corridors blocked by pop-up barricades. One near 16th Avenue NW, one by Sunridge. Folks don't realize they boxed in their own ambulance. If you can hear me, pull the cones and pallets to the side when you see lights. We're not there to pick a side. We're there because your dad can't breathe. You heard her. If your group set up a barricade and an ambulance hits it, you move it. If that sentence annoys you, ask yourself who you're really angry at. NORAD. I'm going to be careful here. Jay is on line 2. Dan, we got 2 sets of instructions tonight. Ottawa and the provincial command both tried to claim authority over site access to consoles. The colonel told her staff to follow binational procedures only. Then the phones started ringing with people asking how many armed personnel were on the floor. I'm not answering that. Your listeners need to understand. If anyone tries to free a radar station for a cause, that's not local politics anymore. He's right. NORAD is a treaty with another country. You don't storm a console because your premier told you the feds are overreaching. You also don't storm it because you think you're saving Canada from separatists. You keep your distance. You let the professionals follow the book that's older than you. Arctic. Cambridge Bay. Canadian Coast Guard reported an electronics failure on a cutter after a static burst on VHF. A foreign icebreaker, flag withheld for the moment, came alongside and took the crew aboard, then announced a safety operation because of jammed comms. Ottawa called it interference. The breakaway cabinet posted thanks for maritime assistance. That single difference in phrasing, interference versus assistance, is the sound of a constitutional fight becoming a sovereignty crisis. Navigation safety sounds helpful. It is also how you justify a presence you don't plan to give back. Foreign posture updates. Washington announced what it calls a limited protection mission to secure cross-border energy corridors and the Winnipeg Intertie, the power tie that helps balance flows, insisting that it was invited by recognized authorities. Ottawa says there was no invitation. The premier says he asked. A Great Lakes Joint Patrol stood up tonight, U.S. Coast Guard and Canadian vessels running together to keep shipping moving. If that makes you uneasy, good. That's the correct human response when big neighbors say they're here to help and bring guns to the favor. The EU dangled a stabilization loan with strings, oversight on port governance, and customs, the sort of plan that turns into de facto external management if you're not careful. Chinese state shippers are diverting cargo away from Vancouver and Prince Rupert, and a state lender is offering to finance a Vancouver terminal operator in exchange for a long concession. Russian trawlers and a frigate are lingering off the Arctic coast using the ensuring navigation safety line Jay and I both hate. Nobody is altruistic. Everybody smells leverage. Disinformation. Let's do a quick ear training. I'm going to play 2 clips. Clip A is a real curfew siren. Clip B is an AI composite that fooled a few city feeds. Listen for the way the echo sits wrong in B. A straight repeat with no reverb variations, like someone copy-pasted a room. Also the breath at the end of the announcer's line. In the fake, you can hear a little phaser shimmer on sibilants. If your city channel posts something that makes you panic, count to 5, then check the account's creation date and the file's checksum. It takes less time than arguing online for an hour. My phone is buzzing. Ethan First, my brother. Text at 2219. We're staged south of the junction. Dawn move if no retreat. Keep Lucas away. I'm not going to read the rest. Lucas, my son, just left me a voice note that I'm going to paraphrase. He's at a volunteer roadblock near the old auto mall, convinced outside forces will push through neighborhoods before morning. He says his group will hold. Lucas, if you're listening, hold by opening a corridor for ambulances. Hold by keeping eyes on houses, not on a flag. You are not an army. Don't try to be one. There's gunfire again near the junction. I'm moving my mic and laptop to the stairwell. If the audio changes, you'll know why. I can confirm flashbangs again. I can confirm rubber on the ground. The way it stings through denim, you don't forget that sound. I can't confirm live rounds right now. I can confirm one fatality earlier, and I will say his name only after the family posts it publicly. And no, I will not play the drone footage that shows a church basement with cots. You don't need to be the guy who gets a clinic raided because you wanted views. If you live 2 blocks from that church, put a white tarp on the roof and turn on every exterior light you have. Make it obvious that it's medical ground. I've got an update from Ottawa. The government is offering a 72-hour pause on aggressive enforcement in exchange for clearing 2 hospital corridors in Calgary, 2 in Edmonton, and similar in Saskatoon and Regina. The Prairie Bloc is saying federal assets remain under local control during the pause. Quebec is offering to host talks in Quebec City with Indigenous leaders sitting as equal principals, not as observers. I'm not going to sell you hope wrapped in shiny paper. I will say this gives oxygen to people who need to catch their breath. That matters. Practical again. If you are running a generator, ground it. Don't backfeed your house unless you have a transfer switch. Carbon monoxide kills in quiet houses. If you need water, remember the heater tank holds 40 to 60 gallons. Turn off power to the heater first. If you've never turned a wrench on a drain valve, go slow. Put a bucket under the relief line. If you've got meds that need a cool spot and your fridge is down, a basement corner will be cooler than a top floor kitchen. Don't put anything food grade near a running generator exhaust. Maya just flagged a rumor that the Governor General fled the country. It's wrong. I won't say where she is. I will say 2 independent reporters posted photos of her visiting a hospital in Ottawa this afternoon. Also, a cabinet resignation clip is circulating. The shirt tie knot in the video doesn't change angle between frames, and the lapel pin reflection repeats every second. It's fake. Halifax, Abby again. 2 containers of antibiotics out, one of the baby formula moving with an escort. We've got a vessel with private guards posted at the gangway. Someone fired a flare into the parking lot. I called port police. If that ship captain thinks he's going to turn this into his own little kingdom, he's mistaken. Tell parents the formula isn't going to a warehouse. It's going to the downtown clinic. Volunteers are already marking the truck. Thank you. If you're in Halifax and you know that clinic, you don't need to post the route. Just move the pallets when you hear the convoy. Montreal. Captain Deslauriers texted me a public statement earlier. She said she won't deploy her company into unarmed crowds to clear encampments. She also said she'll defend critical points if someone attempts sabotage. That's not politics. That's a professional line. She's going to get hammered by pundits for picking and choosing. I'm going to give her the only thing that matters tonight, an honest read. She's right to draw a line. U.S. border. Sweetgrass Coots Corridor. There's a U.S. National Guard element sitting on the Montana side with fuel trucks, staged to protect compressors on the gas line. They say they're coming in cooperation with local authorities. The phrase you're looking for is which authorities? Washington lawyers write those words with tweezers. If a convoy of U.S. vehicles crosses and parks near a compressor station, some people will call it help and others will call it occupation. The truth will be in the paperwork none of us can see yet. In the meantime, keep your distance. Don't go sightseeing. I want to talk about money in a plain way. If you've got a drawer of Canadian Tire money, it's a joke until it isn't. Cash is king when debit dies and credit is locked. But don't hoard to the point of breaking your neighbor. If you buy all the AA batteries in a 10-kilometer radius and your neighbor's kid's insulin pump dies, that's on you. Set aside what you need. Make a pile of the rest for trade. We're not medieval. We can still act like a society. I'm opening the text line for 3 categories only. Verified road openings around hospitals, safe generator charging spots for neighbors, and locations where a licensed nurse or doctor is taking walk-ins. Don't send me political pamphlets. Don't send me fantasies about cleansing the land. I'm filtering with a machete tonight. A message from the Red Deer. Clinic at 49th Street and 47th Avenue needs sterile gloves, size medium. We have sutures. We're out of saline. That's the kind of message I'll read. If you're nearby and healthy, head that way with gloves. If you're sick, call first. Calgary. Police just posted a map of the ambulance corridors. I'm not going to mirror it because those links get spoofed. Here's how to check if it's real. Go to the official handle you already follow, not a link someone sends. Compare the timestamp to the last 5 posts. If the cadence is way off, or the tone reads like it was written by a bot, wait 5 minutes and refresh. The real feed will post an image and a text alt description. The fakes won't bother with the alt text. We're getting reports from Windsor that a single lane is opening for fuel tankers under U.S. escort. Police scanners mention a rolling buffer. This is the kind of thing that will go sideways if someone decides to test the convoy. Don't. I know a lot of you want to film something dramatic. Choose boring tonight. Boring gets more NICU incubators running. Lucas just texted a picture of his group moving pallets to clear the ambulance route. He didn't send a selfie. Good. He wrote, "We'll hold the line by not getting in the way. Son, if you can hear my voice..." That sentence is the first thing tonight that let me breathe. Maya passed me a tip, and I've sat on it for 15 minutes waiting for a second source. I've got it now. A judge in Edmonton enjoined the legislature's seizure order pending review. The speaker responded by pretending the injunction didn't exist. That's the speed at which institutions unravel. When a piece of paper that meant everything yesterday gets treated like a pamphlet today. I'm not advocating anything. I'm describing it so you aren't surprised when the weird becomes normal by noon Tuesday. Quick hardware note for those trying to keep radios alive. If you're on a Baofeng or similar VHF-UHF handheld and you're talking inside an apartment, put the radio next to a window and hold the antenna vertical. If you've got a length of wire, you can rig a simple quarter wave with a BNC clip. Don't transmit unless you need to. Listen more than you talk. Log what you hear with times. That log becomes a record when memories start lying to you. We have one confirmed fatality from the earlier Junction clash. The family posted his name and a photo. I'm going to say the name once and only once. Robert Meyer, 36. Mechanic, father of 2. I'm not going to read the rest of the post. Send his family meals, not noise. I'm getting questions about armed groups. Yes, some men, and it's almost always men, are walking around with slung rifles so they can feel useful. If you are not trained, leave it home. If you point a weapon without knowing what's behind your target, you're not protecting your street. You're introducing a coin flip to a place where children live. Police are jumpy. Volunteers are jumpier. Don't add muzzle flashes to a night that already has enough sparks. Arctic again before I lose that thread. Shipping insurers are already rewriting policies. If a foreign icebreaker can claim assistance today, A foreign port can claim safety detention tomorrow. That could strand Canadian cargo in ways no premier or prime minister can fix with a press release. The Northwest Passage isn't just pride, it's a lever. You feel levers when someone else's hand is on them. Quebec City talks. The proposal puts Indigenous leaders as equal principals. That matters. It changes who sits at the table and who signs. I don't know if it happens. I don't know who walks out first. I know the alternative is letting streets decide. Streets are bad at drafting law. Let's do a sanity inventory. Food in the house you don't need to cook, 3 days minimum. Water? A gallon per person per day is the rule of thumb. If you're short, fill tubs now. Toilets still flush with a bucket pour if your pipes aren't frozen. Have a place for trash. Bad sanitation builds an outbreak inside a crisis fast. If you've got a neighbor who lives alone, knock on the door, introduce yourself, and make a plan to check in morning and night. I can talk about geopolitics till my voice goes, but none of it matters if Mrs. Singh on the third floor falls and no one knows. A last pass through foreign channels before the top of the hour. Fort Drum spun up a logistics battalion. That puts trucks and drivers on the American side ready to move. The NATO spokesperson used the phrase, "prepared to assist upon request." No request has been made. A Chinese lender's term sheet for that Vancouver terminal includes a revenue floor guarantee. That's the kind of clause that survives governments. Be careful what you sign. We're okay on power for another hour if I keep the lights off. If you need to charge a phone and you're within 4 blocks of a school that looks like a broadcast might be coming from it, wait for a daylight notice. I'm not opening the door to 100 phones in the night. I'll set up a window drop for chargers in the morning if the grid stays ugly. I can hear sirens pulling back from the junction. Either a shift change or someone decided dawn is a saner time to do dumb things. I'll take either. I'm going to give 3 sign-offs for the night, and then I'll keep the stream hot with a low hiss so you know we're alive. 1. If you're on a barricade, open space for ambulances and mark it with tape. 2. If you've got a clinic and you're worried about drones, mark the roof with white tarps and keep exterior lights on. 3. If you're a professional with letters after your name, RN, Maryland, electrician, line worker, comms tech, text the line with the hours you can show up and the place you can actually reach. I'll read a roll at 6 o'clock. Before I kill the overhead light, I want to say something I used to put at the end of my columns when I'd written something that made everyone mad. Hold on to the people, not the flags. Flags don't come to your apartment when the heat is out. People do. This is Daniel Cross. I'll be back on the hour unless the batteries quit or someone decides to triangulate a school roof at midnight. If the stream drops, count to 600 and try again. Daylight changes tempers. It does not change debts. Back for a quick hit. Maya flagged a rumor that the city is about to sweep a medic tent near 12th Avenue SC. I called the police media line and the protest hotline on air. Both deny. Here's what I'm doing instead of reading a location. Asking both sides to text me privately with a marker that only someone on site would know. The color of the tarp on the second cot, the brand of the generator. Once I have both, I'll call a supervisor and a field organizer and keep the chat off the public feed. I don't need the internet to watch us turn a clinic into a fight. Update from the West. The treaty checkpoint reported a caravan of men with long guns turned around after a 10-minute talk. No shots. The chief's niece handed out water. Some of those men probably went home cussing. I'll take cussing over a eulogy. A listener in Medicine Hat reports the water treatment plant is on backup and asking households to reduce laundry and showers. Don't be the family washing bedding at midnight. A teacher in Lethbridge says she's got 30 kids camping in the gym, with parents at work or stuck. She's making oatmeal and reading the phone book Game to keep them calm. You pick a name and make up a life story. She asked me to say out loud that adults are still in charge. You just heard it. A rumor about the border at Emerson being sealed tight is wrong. It's restricted. Freight with medical flags is moving in a rope line. Don't take a road trip to Manitoba to check. You'll waste fuel and end up on a shoulder with a dead battery and a sad thermos. Drone footage near the junction shows a church roof with white sheets laid in a cross. Good job, whoever did that. Marking helps. An air unit just circled and left. Draw your own conclusion. A private message from a nurse at the Peter Lougheed. Our oxygen manifold is stable. Diesel's good for 8 hours at current draw. We need glucose gel and pediatric masks. If you own a medical supply shop and you're listening, you know what to do. Back to macro. The bond market that still exists is pricing a breakup. I don't know if that happens. I know perception moves shelves. The more people think paper money is fake and truckers won't cross lines, the emptier your aisle 9 looks. That's not a conspiracy. That's supply chain physics. We've got the first unambiguous confirmation of a U.S. Coast Guard cutter pairing with a Canadian vessel on the Detroit River. The photo shows both flags. The caption says, "Joint patrol to keep shipping lanes open." This is the part where someone's granddad tells a story about 1812, and his friend responds with a story about NORAD. I'm less interested in the stories we tell ourselves and more interested in whether heating oil reaches Windsor once the nights dip. If you're still awake, eat something. Your body runs on boring fuel. A banana is a tactical victory. Drink water. Turn off the Doom video and sit in quiet for 30 seconds. It won't fix anything. It will stop your brain from chewing through itself for a minute. I need to sleep for 30. I'll leave the line open and the scanner up. If something breaks, not gossip, not noise, Maya will ping me and I'll be back. The school smells like old gym mats and pencil shavings. It's as good a place as any to ride out the night. Back. A transformer blew east of the ring road. That was the blue flash some of you saw. It wasn't sabotage, it was a tired piece of gear doing what tired gear does. The city utility posted a plain language note. Bless whoever wrote it without jargon. Message from Fort McMurray. A volunteer fire chief says the new growth from burn scars isn't fuel yet. That buys time if idiots try to light things. Sit on your friends who think chaos is fireworks. Montreal report. Captain Delorier says a junior minister attempted to direct her company to clear an underpass. She refused and routed the order to a general. The general backed her. That's what a professional chain looks like when it's awake. I promised a morning roll for professionals. If you're a nurse, send hours. If you're an electrician who can do service drops, send a block. If you're a comms tech with spare cokes and a crimp tool, tell me where you can be at 9 o'clock. We'll stitch a city with tape and cable if we have to. The school's boiler clanked alive for a minute, then silence. The battery meter says 12.1 volts. I can get another hour if I kill the laptop screen and talk in the dark. My handwriting is garbage, so forgive me if I stumble. My brother texted again. We stand down till after sunrise. Commander says no night push. I exhaled so hard I almost fell off the chair. Lucas sent a photo of a pot of coffee on a camp stove with the caption, "We'll be boring." Keep being boring, kid. Dawn isn't here yet, but the sky is lifting. Smoke sits low over the fields like a dirty lid. You can hear one bird trying a test note. I want to say this before people wake up and go out looking for a story to star in. You don't need to star in anything. Your job is to get through a day, help a stranger, and not become someone else's headline. I'll close this block with 3 numbers. Text line for verified hospital corridors, text line for professionals' volunteering hours, and a third, a number for any kid who is alone in an apartment and hearing sirens. If you are that kid, send me your first name and what you can see out the window. I'll read your name on the next hour so you know a voice knows you exist. Halifax Human Lane report. 2 more containers cleared. A dock worker named Mira stood on a roof with a flashlight going slow lazy so a driver knew which alley to take. Mira, you probably saved an hour and someone's breath. Time for a short reset so I can swap batteries. If we go dead for a minute, it's me, not you. This is Daniel Cross. Hold on to the people, not the flags. I'm back at 6 on the dot with a roll of who's open and where to go. I'm here, battery swapped. Coffee that tastes like hot cardboard in hand. Let's read the roll. Nurses. 2 at Bonus Community Center, hours 9 o'clock to 13 o'clock. 1 at Marlboro Mall Clinic Space, hours 10 o'clock to 14 o'clock. Electricians. A pair with a bucket truck. Will be at 4th Street NW and 20 Avenue from 11 o'clock to 15 o'clock doing service drops. Comms techs. A ham named Rita is bringing cokes and crimpers to set up a neighborhood net at the Huntington Hills Community Hall at noon. Don't mob. Form a line. Bring patience. I'm back on low power with fresh coffee and a notebook full of names. Same school basement north of Calgary. Same dipole across the gym. Same rule set. I timestamp by voice when it matters. I don't read coordinates for clinics or small units, and I won't amplify fakes. If the audio dips, that's the battery sag. If we drop, count to 600 and try again. Quick reset so anyone waking up can track what matters. The Prairie Legislature's Sovereign Administration Act is in force here. Ottawa called it illegal and told federal staff to stand fast. A 72-hour pause on heavy enforcement is on the table in exchange for clearing hospital corridors. Halifax carved a humanitarian lane through the port. Windsor opened a single fuel lane under U.S. escort. Quebec voted to custodian federal buildings to avoid clashes and to host talks in Quebec City with Indigenous leaders as equal principals. The grid is brittle. Money is sticky. Tempers are better in daylight than at midnight. But debt and grief didn't sleep. I promised a role for professionals. Nurses first. Bonus Community Center, 2 RNs from 9 o'clock to 13 o'clock. Marlboro Mall Clinic Shell, 1 NP from 10 o'clock to 14 o'clock, looks like family practice skill set. Electricians, 2 crews doing service drops at 4th Street NW and 20 Avenue from 11 o'clock. Comms, a ham named Rita will set up a neighborhood net at the Huntington Hills Hall at noon with cokes, a crimper, and a card table. If you go, bring a power strip and patience. Ambulance corridors in Calgary are real and painted on pavement this morning. Chalk and cones, not politics. Paramedic Sophia Tran texted an update. Sunridge route is open. 16 Avenue. NW corridor is open. Crews are moving. If you parked in either, move. She doesn't want to thank you. She wants unblocked doors. Junction near Irricana. Stand down held overnight. 1 confirmed fatality from the first clash. The family posted the name late last night. I read it once. I'm not going to say it again to keep clicks warm. RCMP shifted back to perimeter and floodlights. The convoy crowd thinned with dawn, as crowds do when coffee cools and phones die. A clergy group walked a line with a bullhorn asking for quiet and got it for 10 minutes at a time. You can dislike a sermon and still accept a pause. Before we run the larger map, one domestic thing. I called my son Lucas 30 minutes ago. He picked up on the second ring. He sounded like he'd been awake for 20 years. He and a few volunteers pushed grocery pallets to mark a lane for ambulances and left a sidewalk channel for parents with strollers. He said a lot of grand words last night. This morning he said, "We'll be boring, Dad." That's a good sentence. Quebec. City talks. Let's put scaffolding around expectations. The proposal on the table is a 72-hour enforcement pause paired with guaranteed hospital corridors, monitored by a mixed team that includes Indigenous leadership and neutral civic observers. That's the floor. The Prairie Bloc wants federal assets to remain under local control during the pause. Ottawa wants a written commitment that no one advances on federal facilities during the same window. The invite list includes Ottawa, Prairie Premiers, Quebec, territorial reps, and a roster of treaty nations that is longer than any previous summit of this kind. The EU and the Organization of American States have both asked to send observers. The U.S. asked to be briefed but not to sit in the room. The language matters. Sitting in the room creates a photo. Photos stick. Ports, Halifax first. Avibasu keeps the humanitarian lane open with 2 cranes and volunteer escorts in vests that actually match a list, not cosplay. A container of pediatric masks came off at dawn. A container of antibiotics is on the dock. Port police told a private security firm to holster gear and step back from a gangway after a flare hit a parking lot last night. The captain who posted guards on the gangway got a visit and a piece of paper with the word trespass on top. Shipping law isn't sexy, but it keeps cities fed. Vancouver is ragged. A shipping consortium still wants a gate forced with private contractors. A longshore crew is holding the barricade. Vancouver police closed a 4-block radius. If you are not being paid to be there, go home. A port is blind corners and steel edges. Panic becomes blood in 30 seconds. I'm not reading injuries. You know what happens when baton meets skull. You can imagine the rest. Windsor, the single fuel lane moved 3 tankers across with U.S. escort. Coast Guard cutters on the water, National Guard trucks shadowing bridges, and a rope of police cruisers on both sides. Escorts are dull until someone tries to film up close or throw a fireworks battery under a truck. Don't test escorts. A lot of people's oxygen concentrators and NICU incubators ride on those loads. NORAD. Binational Command released a plain English statement. North Warning System and associated sites continue normal operations under binational command and control. Site security is maintained by assigned forces. Requests for access must follow established procedures. Translation: nobody is seizing consoles. No local politician, no provincial minister, no activist with a map. A radar tech who calls this show as Jay said it better last night. Seize a console and you're not doing local politics anymore. You're poking a treaty. Arctic, Cambridge Bay situation matured into something less ambiguous. A Canadian Coast Guard tech got a quick look at the interference spectrum on a laptop after the crew boarded the foreign icebreaker. The signature looked like a swept jammer at VHF Marine Channel spacing, not a solar event. The icebreaker's radio officer chalked it up to environmental conditions while smiling in a way that says he read his media training packet. Ottawa called it interference again. The breakaway block said assistance. Same nouns, different verbs. Insurance underwriters are already whispering about new exclusions for episodes of navigational uncertainty north of 70 degrees. That's how a global line item shows up in your grocery bill. Disinformation cleanup, 2 big fakes spinning right now. First, a video of the Governor General announcing a dissolution of Parliament. It's an AI composite. Watch the lapel pin in the left frame corner. The reflection loop repeats exactly every 1.0 seconds. Also, the room acoustics don't change when she turns her head. Second, a memo claiming federal pensions will be converted to provincial script by Monday. The header uses a typeface the department stopped using in 2039. Check origin servers, not just screenshots. Screenshots are where lies go to get comfortable. Phones. Let's take a call. Maya, give me line 2. Daniel, this is Captain Marie de Lauriers in Montreal. We have received our guidance. We will not move into unarmed crowds. We will protect substations and water treatment. I have spoken to my soldiers about restraint and about what happens to a country when uniforms forget who they serve. Thank you, Captain. That last clause should be stapled to every wall. Uniforms serve people, not a logo. If you're seething that she isn't clearing tents, remember that electricity and water let hospitals work, and refrigerators keep insulin viable. There is plenty of valor in standing in front of a transformer with nothing but a vest and a polite word at 2 a.m. I'm getting notes asking if the Canada you woke up in is still Canada. Loaded question. The map on your fridge hasn't changed yet. What changed is trust, the invisible glue that lets a clerk hand you change and a nurse hand you a pill. Trust didn't die last night. It took a beating. The fix is boring. Clear corridors, keep lights on clinics, keep a tight lid on rumors, and stop treating treaties and laws like optional subscriptions. A small set of numbers to ground us. Calgary police reported that average response times for priority calls jumped to 13 minutes overnight. That's nearly double baseline. Hospitals are on generator tier plans. Non-essential lighting off, elevators restricted, HVAC cycling to keep ICU rooms at safe temperatures. Diesel deliveries by hours, not days. If your building superintendent is a good person, bring coffee and a sandwich. That person's stress level runs the elevators you will need for a stretcher later. Quebec City. Word from a journalist friend. Delegations will enter through separate doors to keep footage from turning into a handshake meme. Indigenous leaders asked for a circle first without cameras, then a plenary. One of those leaders is Chief Lorraine Whitecloud, who spoke to us last night from a checkpoint west of here. I asked her to call in before she walks through those doors. Daniel, it's Lorraine. We'll sit if there is real listening. Ambulatory lanes first, then food. Then words about land and law that people have avoided for generations. If a premier wants to show he can put his phone away for an hour and let elders speak, that will be a new day. If it's theater, we go back to the road and we keep water and tarps for fire crews and kids. She didn't ask for applause. Don't clap. Put a lane cone in the right place and make space for an ambulance. Lucas texted again. One sentence. Neighbor Mrs. Park needs her metformin. We're walking it over. If you're in a group and you want to be useful, start a small wall chart of people on your block with meds and mobility issues. Use paper. Phones die. Paper does not. Knock on doors. Introduce yourself. I know we've all avoided that for years. This week is not a week to hide. My brother Ethan is awake and on a secure line. He can say little. He will say this. His team was retasked from the junction to secure an ambulance corridor after a spike in calls from a cluster of blocks in the northeast. He said walking past a barricade with a shield while a woman in slippers pressed a bag with a sandwich and a note into his hand made him want to cry and sleep at the same time. He will not be a radio guest. He is not a pundit. He is a person in a helmet doing a job that will get him yelled at by both sides before lunch. If you expected analysis and got people, good. Countries are people stacked on policy. When policy tips, people hold or drop. That's where we are. Let's run the money in plain language. The banking freeze means deposits are locked and transfers throttle. ATMs cough cash in small bursts. Merchants are shifting to cash. Barter is popping up, heavy on batteries, propane, canned goods, and phone charges. If you bought out a shelf of AA batteries last night, walk some over to the single mom in your stairwell with the toddler and the insulin pump. I'm not shaming you. I'm asking for you to be the adult in your own story. Boil water notices. Medicine Hat asked residents to cut showers and laundry. Lethbridge posted a conservation request. Edmonton is steady for now. Calgary's water utility reports a stable chlorine residual, but ask for sensible use until the grid stabilizes. Fill containers and keep lids on tight. Vancouver update. The private contractors backed off after a stern visit from the Port Authority with a handful of legal documents that spelled out liabilities in terrifying fonts. 2 people with head injuries went to hospital. Security cameras captured a flare landing under a flatbed and a quick stomping longshoreman shoving it off with a shovel. If you're that person, write down your tetanus shot date and go get a booster if it's old. Great Lakes Patrol. Photo shows a Canadian vessel and a U.S. Coast Guard cutter running parallel on the Detroit River. The caption from the U.S. side uses assist and keep shipping lanes open. The Canadian caption uses pairing. The semantic gap matters less than the physical reality. Lights on water, horns in fog, and a lane for fuel. Save the essays for graduate seminars. Today is for moving diesel to hospitals and food to neighborhoods with bare shelves. Quebec City opening circle started. No feeds? Good. The first hour should be a quiet room with old people who outlived more decisions than any of us have made. While they speak, we will do the boring work that lets their words reach the daylight without sirens. Halifax Lane. Avi sent a photo of a driver who handed off a pallet of formula to a clinic nurse at a side door with a handshake so small it would vanish in any news clip. He also sent a message. Tell folks to stop calling us heroes and to start showing up with vests and clipboards and good shoes. We need feet, not poems. Message delivered. A handful of tech notes for anyone building neighborhood comms nets at lunch. Keep it simple. Pick a VHF channel that's quiet. Use a short net script. Appoint a net control with a notebook and a pencil. Start with a roll call of buildings, not names, to avoid doxing people later. Log times. State needs plainly. 2 liters saline needed at 49th Street, not emergency, emergency, emergency. Save that word for when someone's chest stops moving. The school janitor just cracked the door to tell me the boiler is cycling and to hand over a thermos of actual coffee. He didn't give a name. He said to call him the guy who hates gum under desks. He asked me to tell anyone in a school right now to lock the janitor's closet. Cleaning chemicals are not toys. Neither are paper cutters. Keep kids in gyms with a single door watched by an adult with a clipboard. This is not paranoia. This is being the only adult in a hallway when a kid needs a bandage. If you drive, here's a thing you can do this afternoon. Fill your tank if you can do it without queuing long. Then promise yourself not to drive unless it's work, clinic, or supply run for someone on your stairwell who can't. The more we idle in lines to calm ourselves, the faster we burn the liquid that runs ventilators and food trucks. That sentence is boring. It also saves lives. I'm going to give you 3 stories that won't make any feed and matter more than a parade of ministerial microphones. A teacher in Lethbridge made oatmeal for 30 kids who slept in a gym while parents worked overnight. A longshore crew in Halifax swept the dock at dawn so a forklift wouldn't skid with a load of masks. A kid at Lucas's barricade drew a chalk arrow pointing to an ambulance lane and wrote, "This way for breath." These things don't cash out in politics. They cash out in people living to complain tomorrow. We just got the first murmurs from inside Quebec City. Someone in the room texted a line. Ambulance corridors are non-negotiable. Good. Lock those first, then food, then police lines, then the hard talk about land and law. Do it in that order. When negotiators skip food and clinics to talk flags, the street writes its own script. The street is a terrible author. The border at Emerson is restricted but not sealed. Medical freight is moving in a rope line. If your buddy suggests a road trip to Manitoba to film history, tell him to sit down and fold blankets or run water jugs upstairs. We have enough tourists. A listener asked if we're in a civil war. I can't score that with a dictionary. I can tell you what is true from this chair. A province claimed control over federal assets. Ottawa said no. Police split in morale. Some military officers drew lines. Ports choked. A foreign ship assisted at Cambridge Bay. The U.S. started protecting energy corridors with its own uniforms, and a young man and an older man who love each other stood on different corners and decided not to push. Call it what you need to. I'm calling it a country at the edge of a cold conflict that can get hot fast if we stop giving boring people space to work. A practical aside for insulin again. Evaporative cooling, handmade Zier pot, can buy you a few degrees if you have unglazed clay pots, sand, and shade. Wet the sand and let it breathe. Don't put the smaller pot lid in direct sun. It's not magic, but it helps. If you're a pharmacy tech with spare glucose gel, text me a spot. That stuff is life-saving at 3 in the morning when a caregiver misses a meal cue. Maya flagged a rumor that a certain TV host said the first shot of the war happened in Calgary. That person's paycheck depends on saying big words. We have 1 confirmed death last night. That's a person, not a chapter heading. Honor him by keeping streets quiet enough that paramedics can hear their radios. The school where I'm speaking is starting to hum. A few kids woke on the far side of the gym and are playing with a deck of cards on the stage because the classroom doors are locked. I'm going to hand off to a low loop for 10 minutes to make sure the janitor gets what he needs for the boilers and that nobody is wandering into a closet with chemicals. If this signal drops, I'll be right back with the rest of the map. All right, back, we're fine. The janitor is a wizard and a saint. The gym smells like floor wax and orange peel from a snack box someone found. The world shrank to a room for a second, which is what rooms are for. Quebec City, a soft confirmation. Written language for a 72-hour pause includes protection for clinics, food corridors, and water treatment facilities. A new clause mentions no advancement on NORAD-aligned facilities by any party. Someone in the room finally said the quiet thing out loud. Touch NORAD, and you're not just in a Canadian story. You're in a binational one with lawyers and jets. An EU official offered a stabilization loan package to Ottawa with oversight on customs and ports. I read the sample term sheet. It has a revenue floor guarantee for one Pacific terminal. That is the kind of promise that survives governments. If you sign it, know what you're trading. Cash today for control tomorrow. I can't make that call. I can tell you how it reads in 5 years when a different minister sits in the same chair and finds the same clause stapled to a decision. Chinese state lender terms for a Vancouver terminal also surfaced. The loan is cheap. The concession is long. The labor chapter is vague. A trawler and a frigate still linger off the Arctic coast using phrases like navigation safety. A Coast Guard cutter with a Canadian flag is near them, and a patrol aircraft out of Yellowknife is making slow circles. Nobody wants a bump on steel in cold water today. War is loud in movies. In real life, it hums and waits. Domestic politics. A judge in Edmonton put in an injunction on the seizure order. The speaker is pretending it doesn't exist. Courts rely on compliance with paper. Paper relies on culture. If culture shrugs, paper is a funny napkin. The fix is not a silver bullet. The fix is a stack of small norms that used to feel automatic. A cop writing a report with a date stamp. A clerk filing it. A minister reading it and choosing to eat crow instead of escalating. Eat crow. It is a humbling dish that prevents funerals. I'm going to read 3 messages. One from a union organizer. One from a small business owner. One from a kid. Union organizer. We will clear 1 truck lane at port gates for med and food. If anyone with a badge wants to try to shove a second lane now, we walk. Small business owner. My till is light. I'm still taking cash. I will not gouge. A loaf is a loaf, not tuition. Kid. My apartment is quiet. I can see a man on a balcony smoking. He waved. Those 3 lines are a country. Let's mark the ambulance corridors again because repetition saves lives. Sunridge route is open. 16th Avenue, NW route, is open. If you see lights, you move your vehicle. Do not argue. Do not get clever and try to direct traffic unless you're wearing a vest and you've been asked. If a paramedic yells, accept it. That person has earned the right to bark in an emergency. A tough note. I know some families want to drive to the junction to bear witness. Please don't. The junction is a place for professionals and a pair of clergy who know how to get a crowd to breathe without preaching politics. Watch from your kitchen window. Witness there. I'm going to use our airtime for inventory. If you are a clinic and need sterile gloves, text me size and street. If you are a home caregiver and need adult diapers, text me size and a pickup window. If you are a pharmacy with a surplus of glucose gel, text me a door and a time. I will read a short list and ask anyone near to move with purpose. No heroics, just movement. Red Deer Clinic at 49th Street and 47th Avenue still needs sterile gloves. Size medium. Nurse says sutures are fine, saline is short, glucose gel is empty. A medical supply store 2 blocks away opened a back door at 11 o'clock. Owner says he will hand out boxes at cost if buyers are clinic staff. Bring ID if you have it. If you don't, bring scrubs and the calm voice that makes a waiting room trust you. The classroom upstairs started a game for the smaller kids. The teacher calls it sound bingo. She plays recordings. Rain, a train horn, a kettle boil, a phone buzz, and the kids match them to boxes. The idea is to make scary noises less scary. Whoever thought of that, thank you. Fear hates names. I'm getting repeated pings about foreign seizure of a pipeline compressor station at Sweetgrass. Stop. The U.S. announced a protection mission to secure energy infrastructure in cooperation with local authorities. The phrase that matters is which authorities. That is a fight for documents and microphones. What matters to us this minute is that a compressor turns, the line moves, and furnaces get gas when nights drop cold. You can hate a uniform and still benefit from the motion that uniform protects. You can hate a flag and still want a NICU bed to stay warm. Hold both truths. Quebec City. The first written points leaked. Ambulances, food corridors, water and grid sites protected. No moves on NORAD-aligned facilities. No seizures of media stations or community centers. The last one matters. When governments get jumpy, microphones get scary. Let microphones work. Shut down the paid rage farms, not the rooms where neighbors pass a note about who needs an oxygen tank. A late text from Ethan. We escorted 3 ambulances. A woman gave me a sandwich and a note. It said you can be scared and still be good. I put it in my vest. Read that again if you need permission to shake and still do the right thing. I'm going to step out for 60 seconds to move the dipole masts. Wind shifted, and the line hum is rising. I'll leave the loop up. If we cut out, it's just me on a chair with a wrench. Back. Antenna is happier. Tuner less grumpy, and I can hear my own voice without a buzz. Thank you to the anonymous neighbor who held a flashlight through a cracked door and did not ask for a selfie. We're moving toward a close for this broadcast, not because the crisis is clean, but because this battery won't carry me into nightfall and a stationary signal is a risk. Before I wind down, 3 sets of instructions for anyone who needs a checklist. 1. Neighborhood net. Pick a frequency and appoint a net control. Do a roll call, log times. Move needs like freight. 2. Clinic support. Mark roofs with white tarps, keep a corridor clear with tape or chalk. Post a volunteer to wave a flashlight at intersections. 3. Home support. Check the elderly, ration batteries, ventilate if you run a generator, and tape a paper list to your door with names and meds so an EMT can read it fast. I want to end with family because that's the smallest unit that cannot be replaced by a ministerial press release. Lucas and I will argue again, maybe tonight, maybe next week. Ethan and I will disagree about policy until we are old. What matters is that both heard a sentence last night and repeated it this morning in different ways. We'll be boring. Boring is a corridor open, a clinic lit, a pot line at a smelter kept warm so a restart is possible, a school gym with floor wax and orange peel and kids with sound bingo. Boring is heroic right now. Chief Lorraine sent me a short line before she walked into the building in Quebec City. If they listen, we can do this. If she walks out and says the room performed, we will know by lunch. If the room fakes it, we will know by sirens at dusk. The rest is noise. I will leave the stream up for 10 minutes with a scrolling list of clinics and supply drop spots read in a loop. After that, I'm packing this rig and moving 3 blocks to a place with cinder block walls and a smaller roof footprint. I'll leave a note taped to the back door for the janitor with a phone number and a time for a charger drop window. If you're close and need 5 minutes of electrons, come by in the afternoon when the sun hits that wall and we can run the small panel. For anyone who needs a phrase to carry around in a pocket, take the one I learned in a newsroom that taught me to count and to shut up until I had 2 sources. Hold on to the people, not the flags. Flags fit in frames. People fit in kitchens. Kitchens matter more. I'm Daniel Cross. I was a voice in your kitchen for 20 years on paper. And I'm a voice again now because this country still deserves voices that can speak without a handler. We'll keep this net alive if we can. We'll pair with other voices if we can't. Daylight changes tempers. It does not change debts. Breathe. Check on your neighbor. Open the lane. I'll see you on the next frequency. Clinic roll. Read and repeat. Red Deer, 49th Street and 47th Avenue. Sterile gloves, size medium, saline short, glucose gel empty. Calgary. Bonus Community Center. 2 RNs from 9 o'clock to 13 o'clock. Marlboro Mall Clinic, NP from 10 o'clock to 14 o'clock. Halifax, downtown clinic taking formula at side door. Volunteers in orange vests on alley. Edmonton, water utility stable, conserve showers and laundry through evening. Windsor, single fuel lane, under escort. Do not approach with cameras or you'll get the rope closed. Vancouver, port perimeter closed. Go home. Montreal, substations protected. Crowds left alone unless sabotage. Cambridge Bay, patrol aircraft overhead. Cutters on station. Ice and jammers don't mix. Calgary ambulance corridors. Sunridge and 16th Avenue NW open. Keep them open. Last line before I kill the mic and start unscrewing this mast. If your hands are shaking, mine are too. The trick is to do the right thing while the shake is on. That's all a country is. A stack of small right things done by people who could have chosen a worse thing. Be that person. I'll be back when the needles on the meter say I can, from a roof you won't notice when you walk by.